Recently did a post about men who ghost you when they're broke. And I have a commenter here who's asking me, the real thing is, why do you care for the reason? Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been counseling women and men who have experienced abuse as well as those who have been perpetrators of abuse and other violent crimes. This commenter is asking me is, why do I care for the reason why someone ghosts me? I don't particularly care. I'm 46 years old. I would say I've lived life and been through a lot of things. So at the age I'm at now, there's a lot of things that I don't care for anymore, or care, or I'm not really emotionally invested in reasoning why, as so much as I am about what's being done. However, with that being said, there are a lot of people who watch me right now, anyway, who watch me internationally. So I get letters from Poland, Kenya, and other places, other beautiful places, from a lot of nice people that ask me questions across all of my platforms: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and some other stuff, Facebook even. So there's people that ask me questions across all platforms about this. So I make content that is directed towards educating my audience. And as I mentioned here before, there's a lot of young people that watch me. There's people from all ages that watch me, but I have a big younger audience that watch me. And a lot of young people, and myself, even when I was younger, want to know why. What is it about me? What's the reason that someone left me, right? Like abandonment wounds and rejection wounds are like, paramount when it comes to ghosting. It's like a lot of people, they get stuck with why, especially when they're emotionally invested. Like, hey, I've been seeing this guy, this woman, 3-4 months, and boom, out of nowhere, they poofed and disappeared. We were getting along great. We were having sex, I thought this person was going to be the love of my life, and things were going, we didn't argue and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know why. I don't, and people spend a lot of time, some months, some years, even wondering why someone has left them, wondering why someone has wounded them, internalizing the blame, like maybe it was something I did or something I said, and, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of people out there that watch me that have these types of wounds, especially if you grew up with a family that is abandoned you emotionally or physically, or rejected you emotionally, physically, in any number of ways, or if this is something that people repeatedly experience. So there are people that repeatedly experience ghosting and dating, and they're not sure why. And so this is why I do posts like this, to educate people, because there are a lot of people out there, a lot of women out there, and men who watch me. And there's, women in particular who tend to pick a similar type of character, when they're dating, and hoping for a different outcome. So that's why I do that. But there's still a lot of people who ask me questions about this stuff. There's a lot of people that is hurting from stuff like this. And so that's why I come on here and talk to you all. But I think, again, as if you age, if you're fortunate enough to age and get older like I do, then you understand that people are people. You start to become a lot more discerning. You start to take your pace in dating. You start to be a lot less fearful about certain things, because sometimes when people are fearful about being abandoned or rejected, they are a little bit more desperate. They may cling a little bit more tightly, all sorts of things. None of it makes you a bad person. It's just understanding why you're moving a certain way. in relationships with people, and why you worry about certain things, why you're afraid of certain things happening, or why we keep experiencing certain things. So I think that's why this men who ghost you when they're broke, that's just one reason. But I think in addition to that post of the ghosting when broke, I think that is simplified, as I said before. I think, excuse me, it's simplified, as I said before, but there's a lot more that goes into it than them just being broke, typically. Usually there's a sign that there's something more going on, whether it be mental health issues, whether they're living a double life, or whether they have addictions and things like that. All things which encourage you to slow down and look for while you're dating. So as being a writer for many years now, being a person that talks to people for many years, working in television, and being on television shows, these are some of the most common questions that I get asked, by people over and over again. And so ghosting still remains a very common topic for a lot of people. Ghosting, Caspering, orbiting, all phenomenon that's related to ghosting. These kinds of things are very common, and people just want to know why. What was it about me? Usually is what they're asking, or they want to know what happened. People don't like having an open-ended, a book with no closure. And so, hopefully some of these posts give people closure, give people some answers. And even, I even have older people on here who've been through it too. And they comment on here and says, thank you. Now I understand why. I can see exactly what you're talking about, and you've given me closure, because now I can look back on it and say, like, I noticed this, and this, and that. And so, my study is on psychology, human behavior, abuse, mental health, and other things like that. And so my job is to string the pieces together for people. And I understand if you feel like if some of you may feel like you graduated the class and you don't care about ghosting, and, it doesn't bother you, and blah, blah, blah. That's great. That's fantastic. I'm happy for you, but that doesn't negate the other people out there who need answers and want answers. So, uh, you know, if you work in any sort of media, if you work in any sort of, you know, you have to talk about and discuss things that your audience that is key to your audience, not things that are key to me. So if I was going to create content about me and what I cared about, it would specifically be about animals, knitting, crochet, cooking videos, and some workout videos that I may or may not use. So I would be extremely boring if I'm just creating content specifically about Dr. Jones. So I hope that helps. Thanks so much for asking, because I get a lot of questions and things like that around, something similar to this, or people, they say, I don't care, Dr. Jones, I've been ghosted, I don't care, and I get it. Everybody's at a different place in life. Everybody has different questions, and things like that. So I get it. But thanks so much. And one last other little tidbit. I feel like, TikTok is relatively new. I feel like, I wish it would have been around many years ago, back when I was in my 20s. I didn't necessarily have parents that taught me about the ins and outs of dating and what to look for and things like that. But man, I try to do it in such a way that I wish I would have had somebody to, look out for me and sort of tell me all of the little nuances and things like that when I was coming along. Man, you guys might not have the same Dr. Jones today. Who knows how life would have ended up for me, but I'm happy I'm here now, and I'm glad I get to have the talks that I can with you all now. Thanks so much.